On August 27, 2024, Christopher Wolfenberger was indicted by a Fulton County, Georgia grand jury on charges of murder and felony murder connected to the death and dismemberment of his wife, Melissa Wolfenberger. Melissa disappeared in late 1998, and her partial remains were discovered the following year. Adding to the chilling nature of the case, Melissa was the daughter of convicted serial killer Carl Patton, known as the Flint River Killer, who took the lives of 5 people during the 1970s. Nearly 26 years after her disappearance, the long-delayed case was finally brought before Judge Rachel Krause in Fulton County Superior Court. The trial was scheduled to begin on August 12, 2025, and after the jury was selected, proceedings officially started on August 14th. One of the state's early witnesses was former Atlanta homicide detective Dale Kelly, who had become the lead investigator back in 1999 after responding to the scene where Melissa's remains were found. During his testimony, Detective Kelly recalled seeing a stray dog near the location of the discovery when he first arrived. Once the prosecution completed its questioning, defense attorney Donald Samuel began his cross-examination, pressing the detective on the details of his investigation and observations at the scene.
That dog had ever moved the skull at all?
I believe so. I believe the dog drug it out of the woods. And
Or you're just speculating about that?
there was a video, VHS recording.
Can you stick with the microphone?
There was a VHS recording at one time that showed the dog dragging the bag out of the woods. Now, I don't know where it's
Dragging
at
the
now.
bag with the skull out of the woods?
Yes.
There was no detectives out there until after the skull was already there.
VHS recording. That's a security camera. It's so old.
Where
it was
is the evidence of that?
I'm sorry.
Has anybody ever had evidence of that? Is that in any police report anywhere?
I don't know.
Are you just kind of making it up today?
No.
I've read every report you've ever written, every report every other detective has
you
written.
haven't written all written. There are reports missing. I don't know why, but there are some reports missing.
Have you told the DAs there are reports missing?
Yeah. But I mean,
Which DA did you tell that there are reports missing?
gentleman here just questioned me
Uh-huh.
that I had more reports in this file and they're not.
And
nowhere
where's
to
the,
be
where's
found.
where's the VHS?
I don't know.
Did you tell them there was a VHS recording that's missing? You told
Yes.
Mr. Wilson that? When did you tell him that?
The other day when he called me.
You told him the other day?
Sir?
You told him the other day?
Yes.
Is there a
Called
reason
me
you...
last week. Yeah.
And what else did the recording show?
Just that.
Did it show how the skull got there at all?
Just what I described.
A dog pulling it out of the woods. Where from what part of the woods? Well, it's not in your report, you know that.
I'm telling you, I have reports missing out of this file. This is not my whole file.
Take your time.
It's from the wooded area where we returned with the cadaver dogs. It was coming from that area where the other bodily parts were found in the woods.
What did the dog look like?
Like it was a stray dog. The hair was all matted and nasty looking.
Was there any dog hair found on the skull?
I don't know.
Was there any testing done of the skull to show that a dog had moved it?
I don't know how you do that because remember the black plastic bag? It was ripped open. The dog was toting the bag and it fell out.
And you saw a video of that?
Yes.
What did you do with the video?
It was put in evidence.
You know, I think we need to take a break and talk to the district attorney's office for a moment here.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to step out for just a few minutes. It's 2:21. I'll try and get you back in here as quick as we can. Thank you all. All right, for the jury.
During cross-examination, Detective Kelly revealed that one of his original police reports was missing from the case file. He also mentioned that he once viewed a VHS recording showing a dog dragging a bag containing a human skull, footage that has since disappeared from the evidence collection. Following this revelation, defense attorney Donald Samuel requested that Judge Rachel Krause excuse the jury so the attorneys could privately address the matter. In many trials, judges temporarily remove jurors from the courtroom when legal discussions arise that could affect the fairness of proceedings. These moments allow both sides to argue about whether specific testimony or evidence should be admitted without exposing jurors to details they aren't meant to consider. This process helps ensure that the final verdict is based solely on evidence deemed admissible by the court, while also giving the attorneys freedom to debate sensitive legal issues without influencing how the jury perceives them.
Left the room.
Well, I have a couple questions. I'd like to know, first of all, whether Mr. Wilson will either corroborate or dispute that he's been given information about video camera evidence that's lost, his reports that are lost, evidence that they knew that the dog had dragged the skull out of the woods into the road. There's no police report about it, and now it turns out his actual statements are missing. All of which apparently he told the DA's office, none of which even comes close to ever having been revealed to us, ever.
Mr. Wilson?
If I could respond to this, Judge, because I was talking directly with this witness on this issue. If
Okay.
you'll allow it.
Sure.
All right. I do have information about the comment about the dog from this witness. We were not able to locate the video. I didn't know there was a video of that description until I had that discussion with this witness. The detectives, Shepard, suspected that there was a dog or dogs in the area that may have carried the head out from the wooded area to the street where it was located. That's been his theory since the beginning of the case.
Right, but inferring that from the presence of a dog that Mr. McEachern testified to is different than we recovered some sort of surveillance video that showed it, but then we lost it.
Sure, and that was never intended to be introduced into evidence by the state. That's why it wasn't elicited during direct. We had a video cassette. We had several small mini cassettes. At the beginning, before the case was indicted, those were submitted to a company in DeKalb, and they were transferred over to a thumb drive, which was submitted in discovery. And they're labeled as such, converted VHS. It's in discovery. But that's the only VHS cassette that I received from APD Annex. The multiple times we've gone, I don't have a VHS cassette.
Okay, hang on. The physical nature of the physical medium in which the state might have it or not have it, I think is less important at this point than does the state have some sort of video that would line up with what this witness is saying he observed? Like some digital video recording of that image?
I don't.
Okay. And so the videos that you're saying you were aware of that were reduced by a private company to a flash drive or something and were produced in discovery, what are those?
Those are all statements. Witness interviews,
Okay.
which have been turned over.
Okay.
That's the only VHS cassette that I've seen in this case. A lot of mini cassettes that have also been converted. I only had one VHS cassette.
Okay. I appreciate that. Again, I think it would be easy to identify it if it was a VHS, in your possession. But I think more importantly is, does anybody know that such a video ever existed, whether on VHS or anything else?
I didn't have a documentation of that in the Detective Calhoun's report.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have documentation of that in Detective Shepard's report. And I didn't see any reports that Detective Kelly had written that elicited that information. And of course, all the reports that I have from Detective Kelly appeared to be complete.
Okay.
I had no reason to believe they weren't. But so, like I said, I never intended that this information would come in because I didn't have a way to authenticate it. Other than that detective testimony, I knew that wouldn't have been permissible to elicit it via just him testifying to it.
Okay.
I never intended for that to come out.
Mr. Samuel? I think the answer to your first question is Well, actually, to be honest, now that I'm trying to put it in words, I'm not actually sure I'm clear on what the answer is. And that was why I was trying to make the distinction between the VHS and the video.
Yeah. Let me explain to you how I see the problem. We have been working on this case, Mr. McDermott in particular, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for Lord knows how many months at this point. He's been in communication with the DA's office. There's been a lot of open file. And yet apparently they're not telling us about evidence that's lost, about videos that are lost, about their second witness on the stand who's saying he was the chief investigator in the case and some percentage of his reports are lost. Now, either the DA's office says they were oblivious to all of that and they learned that the same time I did, or they've known it all along and didn't tell anybody. Meaning you, us, the destruction of evidence, the loss of evidence that may be important, the loss of police reports from witnesses, from a chief investigator from the original crime scene. He says his reports are missing, and nobody's telling us that the witness is just going to, blurt that out on cross-examination for the first time. And, this business about bleach is not in his report. There's references to bleach in the report, but according to the crime lab that we interviewed, it had nothing to do with bleach in the bags. It was bleach that was done by the crime lab to clean the bones.
And that's a matter for cross-examination?
Well, but he's saying, now he's saying, I've got bleach in the bags. There's no report anywhere that says that.
And again, that's a matter for cross-examination unless there is some report that has not been provided to you. But I'm going to ask you to put a pin in that for a moment and revisit this with Mr. Fawcett or Mr. Wilson. I'm still not sure I understand the answer to the question, which is, before Detective Kelly took the stand, did the state have an understanding that he believed there were other reports that he had made that were missing, number one, and number two, that he believed there was a video showing what he's described about a dog with a bag in its mouth pulling it into the street, which was containing some body part or other? Two questions. What are the answers to those two questions?
Yes, I was providing that information last week when I spoke with him.
Okay. And what efforts did you take to determine if such evidence did in fact ever exist and or was lost or in your possession?
Well, I went back through the file to see if there were additional reports by Detective Kelly. So the reports from Detective Kelly, I sent him portions from the file that we turned over. I went through our additional discovery. I saw additional reports that were turned over. Similar reports to the first one. They were 1 or 2 pages, so not what he's discussing. But I wasn't able to locate any additional reports by Detective Kelly, and that's been through the several times that I've gone through the discovery.
Okay. Okay, so you were aware that Detective Kelly believed that there were other reports that were not in your file?
That was last week, yes.
Okay, but I understand you only became aware of it last week, but you did become aware of it at some point?
That's correct.
And what about the second question, which is, were you aware that Detective Kelly believed there was some sort of surveillance video that had been recorded at the time that reflected what he's described?
Yeah, that's the same conversation.
Okay.
Week, yes.
And did you disclose, and I'm not implying here that you were obligated to. We can have that conversation in a moment. My question, though, is did you disclose to the defense at any time that Detective Kelly believed that there were reports that were missing or that he believed there was a surveillance video that was missing?
I did not have that discussion, no.
Okay. Mr. Samuel, I think I've gotten the answer to those questions. Go ahead.
Well, I have the same. The first question says, why would you not disclose that to the defense? That we're going to put a witness on the stand who, in essence, is going to ambush you on cross-examination because you think, defense counsel, you have all of his reports. We know you don't. So if you cross-examine him, you're going to find out that he's going to say, oh, that's absolutely true. I have got additional reports. They just were never given to you.
What obligation does he have to disclose to you?
The prosecution has an obligation to report missing evidence, right? A VHS camera. He can't just say, it's missing, so I'm just not going to bother asking questions about it on direct examination and let the defense attorneys walk into a trap where the witness can say, oh yeah, what other videotapes are missing? Do they have a videotape of the crime being committed they haven't told us about that was lost? I mean, this is somewhat not the most important thing in the case, whether the skull was dragged out of the woods or wherever it came from. I'm just very concerned if by witness number 2 we're discovering that the prosecution knows there's missing evidence, missing surveillance cameras, missing police reports. They know that that's true, and they're not even telling us about it. It's bad enough that they're missing, which is understandable after 20 years to some extent. It's not understandable why they wouldn't tell us.
So the question then, Mr. Samuel, is what relief would you have the court give you in light of the fact that it wasn't disclosed to you? Is that not something that you can remedy on cross-examination and with this witness and argument?
I have no idea what he's going to say, because I have no idea what this witness is going to say that hasn't been disclosed to us. The whole point of discovery in a criminal case is you give us your witness statements. Now it turns out he knows a lot more about this case.
I understand
Did
that.
they know?
But
the prosecution knows.
My question was, what remedy would you have me fashion to address this issue if I agree with you that this is a problem? Is it go talk to the detective and figure out what he's going to say before you have to cross-examine him in front of the jury?
I was actually going to suggest that you tell the jury, disregard the witness's statement as of now. At some point later in the trial, if they want to bring him back after disclosing to us the statements he gave to them that's missing from what they gave to us, if there's something more than the VHS, something more about the bleach, something more about whatever I haven't, stumbled upon yet. When a witness talks to them, that's a witness statement also that hasn't been turned over to us. Not just the witness statement that's lost, but what he told them last week is a witness statement that hasn't been disclosed to us. You can't interview a witness, find out relatively important information, and say, I'm not going to put it in writing, so the defense attorney's never going to learn about it.
Understand. Thank you, Mr.
I would ask that the witness you tell the jury not to pay attention to what the witness has testified to, and we'll bring them back later in the trial if appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Samuel.
After the prosecution does what it's supposed to do.
Mr. Samuel argues that what Detective Kelly told the prosecutors constituted an undisclosed witness statement and asks for a jury instruction to disregard his testimony. In Georgia, the law creates reciprocal so-called discovery obligations, meaning that both the state and the defendant are required to share certain kinds of information before trial. The purpose of discovery is to promote fairness by ensuring that both sides...
Attorney Donald Samuel argued that Detective Kelly's statements to the prosecution amounted to an undisclosed witness statement and requested that the jury be instructed to disregard that portion of Kelly's testimony. In Georgia, state law requires what's known as reciprocal discovery, meaning both the prosecution and the defense must share specific types of information before a trial begins. This rule is designed to ensure fairness by giving each side a reasonable opportunity to review the evidence and prepare their case properly. Under Section 1716(7) of the Georgia Code, both parties must provide the opposing side with any written or recorded statements made by witnesses they intend to call at trial. However, according to a 1996 ruling by the Supreme Court of Georgia in Forehand v. State, this requirement does not apply when a witness gives an oral statement that was never recorded or written down, except for any notes or summaries prepared by the attorneys themselves. Because of that precedent, it's unlikely that the prosecution was legally required to disclose Detective Kelly's verbal comments under Georgia's discovery rules. Still, under the U.S. Supreme Court's 1963 decision in Brady v. Maryland, prosecutors have a constitutional duty to reveal any evidence favorable to the defense, including material that could be used to question a witness's credibility. By failing to disclose that Detective Kelly had mentioned the existence of a VHS tape and police report that later went missing, the prosecution may have deprived the defense of valuable information that could cast doubt on his reliability. This omission raises the possibility of a Brady violation, suggesting that critical evidence which might have influenced the jury's view of the detective's testimony was withheld.
Set?
Yes. I think I could understand, still wouldn't agree with it, but I could certainly understand Mr. Samuel's position if we were going to take his, I guess where he's going with it. There's some nefarious intent, some bad faith on the part of the prosecution to do that. I will say I am not immune to oversight or overlooking items, but hindsight I would have. But I will say this: I had no intention on not turning that information over. I didn't think it was of any consequence. I thought at the minimum it would benefit the state. But finding that information out on a Friday or a Thursday before the trial, I did think that was somewhat of an ambush. And again, also at the same time, I would say this. I believe the defense has contacted just about every witness that we've had on the witness list since the beginning of this trial. Detective Kelly's name has been in the discovery since the discovery was turned over. There are 3 total detectives, and I know for a fact they've subpoenaed detectives from the Patton investigation. And so if they had called the Detective Kelly, he would have been willing to speak with them. But to infer that there's some nefarious intent in the process of just simply preparing for trial and interviewing the witnesses, I think it's a bit much. At a minimum, at a maximum, I can understand the court we're going to instruct the jury to disregard the last statement, but to instruct the jury to disregard the entirety of his visual observations and testimony about that when he arrives at the scene, I don't believe there's any reason for the court to decide in that manner.
Deputy District Attorney Vincent Fawcett countered Mr. Samuel's request to have all of Detective Kelly's testimony dismissed. Instead, he suggested that if any instruction was necessary, it should apply only to the final portion of Kelly's statement. This kind of judicial direction is known as a curative instruction. Curative instructions are issued when jurors hear something that should not influence their verdict, such as evidence later deemed inadmissible. In those moments, the judge cures the issue by clearly instructing jurors to disregard the specific statement or detail in question. The remainder of the testimony, however, remains valid for their consideration. In this instance, Mr. Fawcett argued that the jury should still be allowed to evaluate the bulk of Detective Kelly's testimony and, at most, be told to ignore his reference to a VHS tape showing a dog dragging a bag that allegedly contained Ms. Wolfenberger's head.
Let me try that again. Has the defense spoken or attempted to speak to Detective Kelly prior to today?
We have not, Your Honor, and I'm looking for the state's witness list that was sent to us currently because I don't think we were ever given any contact information for him, and he's retired, so usually not kept by the police department.
That the state provided does list Detective Kelly as Detective Dale Kelly, APD.
Okay.
So, that doesn't actually answer my question. Is your answer that you haven't attempted to contact Detective Kelly because you weren't provided contact information and you weren't able to otherwise locate him because he's retired?
That wouldn't be 100% honest, no.
Okay.
If I could say, I'm not sure the blame should be on us.
I'm not implying that I'm blaming you. I'm asking what information did the defense have that they could have exercised in terms, right? I'm just trying to understand the scope of this. It'd be one thing, for example, if y'all had tried to contact the detective and he'd refused to speak with you. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So
I understand that's your question. I'm not quite sure the consequence of it. If we trust the prosecution, that when they give us the reports, we have the reports. If we have to go and consult all 18 of the witnesses on the list now, all 30 of the witnesses last week, and all 150 in the original list, and say what is missing from your police reports, this case wouldn't have been ready to be tried this year.
okay.
But
Thank you, Mr.
understand
Samuel.
your question.
So I still think that the answer to the way to resolve this in the most expeditious manner is for y'all to go into that conference room with Detective Kelly and find out what he's going to say is missing from his report. Because whether or not Mr. Fawcett should have told you is a different matter than whether or not this detective can testify truthfully about what he believes happened in response to questions. Mr. Fawcett is correct that they didn't solicit that testimony. And to the extent that you believe you've not been given complete information, Mr. Fawcett has made representations about what additional information he believes there is. And you can ask Mr. Detective Kelly those questions while we wait and bring the jury back in. I don't think, I mean, it's 2:40. I feel like an initial conversation with that detective to find out what else he's going to say and how many reports he thinks are missing. That's a fair conversation for y'all to have before I decide what to do about his testimony, or to simply have him retake the stand and let's continue his cross-examination with you having the benefit of the additional information that he believes is missing. Mr. Fawcett, is that, or Mr. Wilson? I think he's technically your witness, but.
He is. And so the court's going to go in, would the court allow a recess for them to speak with the witness?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm proposing.
The court takes a recess to allow defense counsel to interview Detective Kelly.
Mr. Samuel, have you had an opportunity to talk to Detective Kelly?
I have, and he answered a couple questions that were very helpful, and he explained what police reports he thought were missing and described them. He doesn't have anything more to say about the VHS. We're probably going to steer clear of that. We still think that ought to be excluded, that you should tell the jury to disregard that testimony because it's missing evidence. But I'm prepared to go forward. The missing reports deal with the June discovery of evidence, and he explained to me what was in his report, so I'm not walking into any dangerous territory there. And there's an issue about bleach, which is concerning, but we talked about that, and I think we both understand now the bleach issue, which you'll hear when we testify.
On cross. Okay.
A little bit of hearsay on both sides with the bleach, but I think we're in agreement that that's what we're going to do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fawcett, it sounds as if we've resolved this issue for purposes of having Detective Kelly come and retake the stand. It sounds as if the only general editorial I'm being requested or ruling is to instruct the jury to disregard Detective Kelly's testimony about a VHS or some sort of video. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
I'm not objecting with that, Judge.
Okay. So what we'll do then is we'll have Detective Kelly return to the stand. I'll have the jury brought back out. When the jury returns, I will instruct them that they are to disregard any testimony from Detective Kelly regarding a surveillance video showing a dog. And then Mr. Samuel can resume his cross-examination.
Judge Krause gave a curative instruction to the jury to disregard testimony about the video of the dog, and Mr. Samuel continued with the cross-examination of Detective Kelly. The trial continued for a total of 7 days. On August 22, 2025, the court directed a not guilty verdict for the felony murder charge. And after just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury found Mr. Wolfenberger not guilty of murdering his wife. This case highlights just how essential discovery is to the integrity of the criminal justice process. When both sides exchange evidence as the law requires, the trial can be decided on its merits, with the jury evaluating only the testimony and exhibits that have been properly disclosed and admitted. But when discovery obligations are not met, whether because evidence is withheld, overlooked, or missing, the fairness of the entire proceeding is called into question by enforcing discovery rules and holding both the prosecution and the defense to their obligations. Courts shall protect the defendant's constitutional rights and ensure that verdicts are based on reliable, lawfully presented evidence. Let us know if there's a case or courtroom interaction that you'd like us to cover in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and share so that we can foster a more informed society. Music.